Asem is the biometric scientist, and Mary and I are the markets.
Right now, it's very close.
Just for him aspects or module. Yep.
Lot of applause.
I'm ready when you are ready.
Do you have a copy of your presentation?
To share?
You're on YouTube.
I
Don't?
I need to. Yeah.
That's fine. If you did, I would just load it on Zoom and I would sort of forward it along. Short leash. I think it is that short. Okay, everybody. Whoa. Hello, and thank you all for coming out on a really chilly January evening to our monthly meeting of Security of Things Meetup. I'm Paul Roberts. I'm one of the co-organizers of Security of Things Meetup, and my friend Jeff Kohler is right here. Jeff, raise your hand. He's the other co-organizer. And if you haven't been before, is there anyone who hasn't been before? Is it new? Oh, it's great. That is great. We meet every month, generally the third Tuesday of the month, and we talk about various issues related to IoT and security, kind of broadly defined. I'm going to make the same sort of plug I make at every meeting, which is if you work for a company that has some story to tell around Internet of Things and security, startup, established company, we're really interested in talking to you and hearing your story. If you are a student, researcher, what have you, we're interested in broadly defined, typically hacking webcams, talk tonight. It's a broad constellation of issues, identity, embedded device security, cloud security, deployment, management, provisioning. We really run the gamut in terms of what we talk about: healthcare, industrial, smart home, consumer electronics, the whole thing. So we are really not overly specified in any area. So we welcome your suggestions. If you work for a company that might be interested in hosting a meetup down the road, we welcome hearing about that as well. But fortunately, these days we have a wonderful host in the person of WPI and their great Seaport facility. So this is the second month in a row that we've done that. And I'm going to give Mike Ahern a chance to step up and tell you just a little bit about WPI and this facility and their program.
Well, thank you, Paul. Good evening, everybody. Who was here in December? Oh, a few, I see. And everyone else is here new tonight. So for those that were here last month, welcome back. Everybody else, welcome. This is Worcester Polytechnic Institute's Seaport facility, and we're doing this to be able to host things like this program. I want to compliment everybody on coming out in the evening, developing their skills, learning more, developing a little bit of light duty education here, and suggest to you also that this facility will be hosting a series on financial technology this summer. So this is our first grad certificate here. We'll be using the classroom behind me here. So I brought brochures. I know it's not a perfect match with this audience, but if you know someone who might be interested in a grad certificate in financial technology, please take a flyer. They're right by the pizza, can't be missed. And then I'll say hello and welcome up our speaker tonight. Thank you. Thank you.
hopefully I don't need this, but I think you'll hear me, people in the back. So we'll leave it on just because it's doing a recording audio. So I will give a quick introduction about who I am, where I work. So my name is Asem Othman. I am the team lead biometric scientist in Veridium. Veridium is a startup company. We are here in Boston. We have an office in New York. Our CEO actually in London. The team that I work in Oxford. Most of the deployment and development is happening actually in Romania. So our small team, but everywhere. And Veridium is we are a biometric platform authentication company. We support enterprises to have a new way of authentication and securing their resources and try to prevent what we hear every day about data breach. And regarding myself, my background is biometric science. I did my PhD in biometric in West Virginia University, and then I did my postdoc in Michigan State University, still in privacy and biometric data privacy. That's why you will see that actually what I'm doing is fit perfectly the company, because we are really care about security, privacy, and we are a biometric platform. How are we able to solve that? So actually in this, it will be more not about exactly our products, more than a general knowledge about why biometrics is important. I'm a biometric scientist. I wanted you to believe in biometric. And then I will show you some of the things that we are doing by the end. So the problem we try to solve is security. You guys are security, so I'm not a security expert here. But one of the issues that we hear about a lot of breaches is that regarding that authentication, who accesses the data and how access the data. And sometimes we hear about these kind of big data breaches. Actually, the problem is not we are the users who are using the service, not our mistakes. We didn't do anything wrong. We're still doing the security hygiene they told us to do. But the problem is the inside. Who's accessing the data? Sometimes it's employee mistakes, or somehow some stupid mistakes, or not did it the right job. Who's accessing this part of the server or something? So, and most of the time in these enterprises, or even if our personal, these authentication is relying on passwords, which is even for our personal point of view, it's still problematic because we need to remember different passwords. If you're working in an organization, you need to have a specific password for this organization. If you are using another service, anyway, it's a mess-up. So I will not go there, but we did like a survey. Our company did a survey in April 2018, and we went to the 200 senior US senior IT decision makers who work in enterprises that has more than 500 employees, and we asked them, "What's wrong? What's happening with the password? Why it's not working with you guys?" And most of the time, we asked them, "Why it's not working with the employees, and what's happening and what's wrong?" Many different reasons, which show the password is not best scenario or best solution for authentication. Either they are reusing the password, they saving the password in their web like Chrome or Firefox. They writing down in post notes and put it somewhere in their desks, and they're using common passwords, which we can guess. Internet of Things is coming, and we know that these all of these devices will be interconnected, but also they will be vulnerable to attacks. And these attacks have a different level. Some of the attacks try to control, some of the attacks try to steal information, other attacks try just to disturb the service. Some of them will be inside the house, some of them while I'm driving my car. Some of them will be really, really problematic and will cause like something like the medical devices that we are using. So all of that should be secure some way or another to make sure who's doing that, who's controlling the data, who's getting the information. And most of the time, until now, most of these devices either using weak or maybe no authentication. And we know there's a solution, two-factor authentication. Two factors is something you have or and something you remember most of the time, tokens. But all of these are inconvenient. Like if you went to the work and forget your token, you're done for the day. Either you go back home and get it, or you delete, and it's really expensive. And also sometimes it's not secure. Some show in different studies and different surveys that's not the best way to do it. So as a biometric scientist, from a company that do biometric platform, we believe that biometric is the best. And that's why in the first part of the talk, I wanted to give you a little bit understanding what's biometric and why it's good for securing for authentication. So biometrics simply something you are, not something you have or something you remember or something you want. It's you, it's your body. And any biometric system, the objective of any biometric system is recognizing the individuals based on their biometric traits. These biometric traits is your face, fingerprint, your iris, your voice, some of them your behaviors, like how you walk, how you type, how you scroll, how you touch your screen, all of that. So the idea, I just want to show you the system in general, and then you will understand one of the things that we will talk about when I start talking about some performance, accuracy, or privacy, why we need to store that and all. So you need to capture the biometric, you need like a sensor to get the biometric, like taking a picture of your face, or maybe putting your fingers on a sensor to capture your fingerprint signal. After that, you need to extract unique characteristics of this signal, depend on the biometric. And then after that, you store it in a database. That's when you do the enrollment, you store in the database. You need to store something. Because when you come back, I need to compare it with what you have in the database and make sure it's a match. That's why we need a match. In different biometric systems, there is two simple questions. Either the biometric system is answering the question, who are you? So I come, I show my biometric, they do the database, do one-to-end search. So you search the whole database to find out who are you. Or simply I come and say, my name is Asem Othman. They go back, Asem has this fingerprint in the database, it matches the one he's claiming. If it matched, it is Asem. So there is two different questions we usually try to answer in biometrics. If I was doing this, I will need to talk more and explain more, because when I was starting my PhD, or because not everyone knows what biometric systems are, but now everyone, I think most of you using biometric systems. Some of you are using Touch ID. How many using Touch ID? Some of you are using Face and Iris and Android like Samsung, and maybe some of you are good enough to get a new phone and have the Face ID. So all of these now, biometric system has been commercialized and been used, and I don't need to explain more because we are using it now already in our daily life. But also, I want to talk a little bit about each biometric. And actually, I will pick 3 top biometrics to show you the difference between them, how it's work, and then we can start about other points with respect to issues with different biometric systems. So the first one I want to talk about face. Face, now it's convenient. We know how to take a selfie. We don't need anyone to teach us how to collect the biometric. We know how to take a selfie. It's socially accepted most of the time. It's easy. You can see someone who's taking a picture of himself, and we accept that. So it's socially accepted. It's well established. The face recognition systems now, it's already in use, and it's very, very reliable, and it's working very well. And in general, how the face recognition systems work, it still needs to detect your face, to find the face features, and based on that, start getting some features. These features, and it was handcrafted features, which I want to decide which shape I'm using. I need to detect the shape. I need to get some color features. I need to get some texture features and put it in my database when I start comparing between different people. Nowadays, with the deep learning and machine learning, now it's not handcrafted features, it's learned features, where I need a training database, and from there, I will store it and then match it. But most of the face recognition system rely on how you train it and how reliable you train it, and that's how it will work, because the face has a lot of variations. The variations can come in lighting conditions, it can come in facial expression, it can come in accessories, makeup, and without makeup. We need a very reliable system that will be able to accommodate all of these variations, which is sometimes is not easy. One of the issues with the face recognition system, that how you train it, how you use it, how you enroll. Because if you enroll in a different, like the pose variation can make a different change. But also, sometimes taking selfie in the middle of the meeting, some places it don't look like a right place to do authentication. The older generation, yeah, we heard that from some people that say, I don't want to take a selfie just to authenticate or use my phone or maybe use my assistant. And maybe that's why the trick they did it in Face ID. They don't show your face when you do the authentication. Face ID, if you notice,
they don't show you your face. They just show you like a lock that unlocks. And maybe that's also one of the things, like we heard it, we have our face, and we heard some women that are not comfortable to take a selfie when they walk out because with the makeup, they don't want to see themselves now. So, and then the culture. I'm from Egypt. In our culture, some areas, you cannot see the woman's face, it has to cover it. So in that case, you only see part of her face, or maybe you don't see that. So that's also the culture, sometimes the reason. And then the twins look alike. Yeah, you see that a lot. People look alike, they will match the same person. And I like this picture because these people are like in the airplane sitting to each other and suddenly they, we really look alike. So it's like the chance is really low, but it could happen. And then the face is easily spoofed. Why I say that? With respect to what we see also now in the social media, I can just search your first name and last name and I will see a lot of face images. So I can just print it or maybe generate a 3D mask or maybe a paper mask or whatever. All of these materials now is cheap and not very expensive. And the face recognition bias, and that's something new. We start seeing now, especially the research that has been done at MIT and then also the American Civil Liberties Union. They did a research on Amazon, and they did it because Amazon started going to some government officials, telling them and selling their face recognition. And simply the ACLU, what they did, simply they get the Congress and the Senate members' face images, and then match it with the mugshots from people that did a crime or whatever. And then there is 28 of them have been matched with people that from their mugshots. It's matched. It's saying it's the same person. And the problem with face bias, it's not the same person, but actually the algorithm, the system that we are using is not well trained enough. And it has an issue. And the problem is, the issue is with specific race and specific sometimes with gender. The MIT found it's with African American women. This found out that we have 28 match, but if you compare these 28 match, we found out that 39%, almost 40% of them are the colored individuals. And I think it's two things happening here. The system is not well trained enough. And another thing, also the mugshot population of the African American or colored also have. So that's why gray caused this kind of high percentage of false match. So the face has some bias. We cannot say, if you looked at it as a human, you can say, no, they are not the same person. But the algorithm is biased because it has been trained. Most of the trained databases are Caucasian men. That's what's happening. Or the other side, if we get something from China, it's Asian men. So in both cases, the victim here is the colored, and most of the time it's colored. And that's what MIT research proved it with, and they tested face recognition system from IBM, from Amazon, from Microsoft. The second biometric I like to talk about, fingerprint. Fingerprint is one of the most well-known biometric. It's the oldest one that when they start talking about biometrics, start with the fingerprint. Fingerprint is very unique. It starts to generate and become permanent step from your first 7 months of fetal development. It's not identical for twins. Actually, for each finger is different in your hand. And now we see it in different sensors. We have all of Touch ID, Android phone that have fingerprint sensors that capture your finger. But actually, what it's captured, where is the uniqueness here? If you look at your fingers, you'll see like a pattern of ridges. And these patterns of ridges, if you look closely enough, you'll see these ridges end and bifurcate. And we call these our minutiae. So simply, to get the uniqueness of that, we can extract this minutiae and save it in a numeric representation, which is just the location and the angle of these minutiae. So that's what we look to in fingerprint, in biometrics. But what issues we see now with fingerprint system? To spoof a fingerprint, it's easy. First of all, it's not easy to get because you need to have a direct contact with the person. You need an object to touch. I cannot, or let's say the opposite. No one in Nigeria or Brazil or somewhere in the world can get my fingerprint. They can get my face, but they cannot get my fingerprint. But even if you get my fingerprint, let's say, generating a spoof can be sometimes easy. How many of you watched Ant-Man? The first one. Did you see how he did the finger spoof? He just went to a a doorknob, get it, and it's seriously yes, you can do that. You can do that. So it's a simple materials. You can from blade, or you can generate a fake smooth fingerprint. But how you get access is another effort, another level of effort. But still, it's easy to spoof. We have different scenario where they're able to spoof fingerprint sensors in phones. We have this doctor in Brazil that have his friend doesn't want to come to this government hospital, and they work in their own, so he generate like a different spoof of them and start using it for attendance. And they don't know the hospital is empty, but in the attendance system, everyone is there. So it's all of these are an issue. But the new thing also that the research that has been just like end of last year, 2018, figured out that even for fingerprint sensors that in phones like Touch ID, if you notice, it's just a small sensor to just capture a small area of your finger. So if you're enrolling, you need to keep putting your finger in different direction to capture the whole finger. But that's enrollment. But when you authenticate, once you touch it, it figured out it's you. But actually what it's finding is just a small area and match it with this big image. And if any part of this big image has been matched with this small area, it will authenticate. That will make them to generate a dictionary attack by generating a random. These are random using deep learning, GAN, neural networks. If you are familiar with GAN, it helps you generate never existed image before. So these are real fingerprint. Maybe you cannot see the details. But anyway, they're able to generate really exactly similar fingerprint. But what's happening here? I didn't know that Asem fingerprint, I don't know his fingerprint, but I will generate a dictionary of fingerprints and keep trying them. Maybe with phone, you only have 5 tries, maybe you will be lucky. But if I'm embedding this to this network or to the system, maybe I will get, if I'm also attacking an enterprise that uses this type of small sensors. Iris is very unique. And if you, as a biometric scientist, if you ask me, what is the most reliable biometrics? Iris. It's an internal organ, it's an internal organ, the only one that I can see from outside. It's visible from outside. It's internal because iris is this texture area that move your pupil to get the light, and it has been covered by the cornea. And it's internal, again, it's visible from outside, so just by taking a picture, I can see your iris. It's perfect in scenarios where you don't have to uncover your face. But this picture, I can see it in light-colored iris, but in dark-colored iris, it will be difficult from the visible light. So that's why we need a special type of sensor, which is a near-infrared, which will help me to capture this texture of the iris. And now we see many phones that do this iris. You need to put it in a perpendicular way and just capture your iris. And there is many phones, Samsung especially. And what is the features or what is in the iris that we need to capture? We need to capture the texture. So we go through some steps, and then we have a filter that tell me some kind of textures representation. And then I quantize that to binary code. And that's actually the first paper, and actually it was a patent, and then the paper Dogman, and I think most of the iris system are using the same technique. The problem with iris, you need to open your eyes wide. Most of the time, the accessories can make an issue, illumination can make an issue, occlusion here, or you close your eyes. It's not easy as other biometric, but still, it is reliable. But how you capture it, that's a different scenario. So we talked about the biometric. We think biometric can be really reliable and good start to capture or to help you to replace password for authentication. There is different biometrics. Every biometric have its merits, advantage, and disadvantage. As a biometric scientist, I'm a believer in multi-biometric system. You should have a system that have different biometrics that capture at the same time. Because if something happened to out of one, the other one can be reliably used. You can capture one if you think able to capture the other.
Quick question just about the iris biometric spoofing, contactless.
So we will talk about, but just to quickly, contact lens, to generate a contact lens that's similar to someone else's texture is very expensive. It's doable, but it's very expensive. But it's also a way to spoof. So that's why one of the things, maybe I will talk about it at the end,
when you have a biometric system, it's not only about picking the biometric, you just want to make sure that you have a biometric system that is reliable. So it's not only about the biometric trait, but also maybe sometimes you need to have a liveness measures to make sure it's a real live person and also a real reliable sample. It's not a contact lens, it's not a spoof or something like that. But generating a contact lens with a similar texture to someone else is really problematic. It's not easy. How you get it as well.
Somebody's a high value target.
In that case, that's why I'm saying, here I'm talking about biometric traits. We need to think about the biometric as itself and the biometric system, the whole system. It's not only which biometric. And that's actually bring us to the next point, the privacy. Because now we understand this biometric is very sensitive. So we want to make sure that how we store it, because you remember when I talked about biometric database, we have a system of a database that have some biometric data. And we need to make sure it's securely stored because we need that. That's unique. And that's why we need to talk about the privacy of the biometric data, because the privacy, even if we are talking about who owns the biometric template, where is the biometric template, where is this data, how it's stored, and if it's moving between different systems, are you sure that
so then he just sent me
or these communications are happening in a secure way or not? That's why one of the things that we as a Veridium, we are supporting and working on it and working with the IEEE, that called Biometric Open Protocol Standards. And in this standards, I just wanted to make sure that when you build the biometric system, the question should not be only about which biometric trait, which sensor, it should be about the whole system, about how you communicate, how you build the system, which biometric you use, how reliable it is it a liveness or not, and all of that. And also, one of the most important part of it, we wanted to make sure
I should have
how the communication is happening between, if you are using a mobile biometric, how the communication happens between the mobile and the server and all of that. And I will not talk about all of these details, like it's flexible, just to make sure that you have a flexible system and secure enterprise. But actually, what I wanted to talk about, the unique way to store the biometric.
Okay, yeah, he sent it to me too. I mean, he sent it to me.
Open
He was
in box,
just like
IEEE.
the link thing
When
you
you
sent me
want
was
to
a
store
different
the
one. I guess.
biometric, we don't want to go to the discussion where I should store it. Should I leave it in the server? Should I leave it with the users? If they're using mobile, should I
You
just
send it
mobile?
my text message.
So
or
what's
you sent it to me?
What's the answer? And I think IEEE Bobs is trying to push is distributed. You don't have to store it in one place.
You know what I think?
You can store it in multiple places.
sorry.
In this case, if you are talking about mobile biometric, you can store it in two different places, which is the mobile
Since I was
and the server.
on my phone,
What you're storing, you're encrypting the data in a way that you can. Let's talk about the system directly. So you have a data, you have a biometric, and here I'm just representing it as 0, whatever, which type of biometric, how you extract your features, what type of feature are you storing. I'm just going to the fundamental, just 0 and 1s. And in this case, we'll use one of the secret sharing scheme, visual cryptography. And the uniqueness about visual cryptography, there is no need for a key. You just need the data.
All right.
Data would be using visual cryptography or secret sharing scheme will be encrypted to share. Each share, if you look to each share, will be like a random, nothing there. If you open the share, you don't have any. You cannot reconstruct the secret from this share. And then you discard the original biometric. So the original biometric data does not exist anymore after your role. You use it, you should encrypt it.
Yep, fair enough.
One of the shares on the mobile.
Right now, I've got a link open to that.
The mobile or get the data from the mobile.
That happened tonight. There's a.
And the share nothing except the random number.
There's a.
Be able to reconstruct the secret again. If you have
live
the server, you don't
that I'm
get
watching.
anything as well. But in order to do the matching,
No, I just started a couple.
when you do the matching, there is no performance degradation. You still have the same accuracy you get when you start building the system without any encryption. You will make sure that both of the server and the mobile working together. That's why the Bob's arrow
starts.
we have a secure communication between the mobile and the server. That's when both of them will come together and you reveal the secret and do the matching.
Oh.
The uniqueness
so tomorrow I'm actually taking a train.
And unique about it that
So
based on the enterprise, based on what type of scenario you wanted to make, you can decide where you want to do the matching. Because now you're either asking the mobile to send the one share to the server and do the matching here, if you rely more on the server, that the matching and the decision can be reliably done here. Or maybe you ask the server to send the share to the mobile and you do the matching here. So the uniqueness about it that you can customize when you want to do the matching. And then after that, once you've done the matching, you discard the data and make there's nothing.
Yeah,
Just
no, I
get the
appreciate it.
decision and discard the data. And now back again, we don't have anything again in the mobile except one share and the server the other share.
All right. So
And
I will let
you're
everybody
using here to do
find
that.
out. All right, you too. I'll talk to you later.
Sharing, we're using a visual cryptography. Visual cryptography, the idea of visual cryptography is, I think it's an old 1994 Naur-Shamir visual cryptography technique that has been used for secret sharing scheme, especially for images. And the idea is simple. Once you have, but that's the equation for the K out of. I like the equation, that's why I put it. But the equation is so simple. Like it just need to have the correct number of shares to generate the secret. But what makes it also very good for biometric and very quick, that the concept of or how to reveal the secret or how to reconstruct the secret, you're simply using a simple binary operation. It's a simple binary operation, which is XOR or OR, but that's what makes it really fast. So that's why it's really good for a case in our case, because when we wanted to do matching, we wanted to make also sure there is no a lot of mathematical computation we need to do to encrypt or decrypt, sorry, in that case. And simply binary operation, we get the secret, we get the biometric template, we do the matching, and we're done quickly. Also, what makes visual cryptography is very unique. There is no keys. So I don't need to key management problems. It's not a problem here because I don't need to handle any keys here. The data will encrypt itself by itself to 2 shares. And then after that, when I needed to reveal the secret, I just require these 2 shares or these 2 secrets come together. It's like 2 locks. And then when they come together, they unlock each other to reveal the secret. So a simple example, visual cryptography is a visual encryption. You can do it visually, and you can do the decryption also visual. So I have a secret that I shared with party 1, and a secret I shared with party 2. And now none of them will figure out what is the secret. It's just a simple random noise. A simple random noise. But once they decided to work together under secure communication, secure channels, which that's why we need a system, a biometric system that makes sure the channel is secure enough. And then when they decided and make sure that it's working together, they work together to reveal the secret. And it's visually, that's what's happening. It just, I'm superimposing them, which is in a binary operation, it's a simple OR. I'm putting them together, and that's when you reveal the secret. And you don't need to do anything. That's why it's really fast. So we talked about security. We wanted to do it, solve it using the biometric. And we thought about how to save this biometric data because the privacy and it's really very sensitive information. And that's why we went to IEEE BOBs, where we're able to securely store the biometric data in a distributed data model. But actually, if we go to our bigger questions, we wanted to do authentication, but actually, the concept here is just like identity proving or identity verification. And by looking to this identity concept, by looking to what we have now as an identity ecosystems, and if we talk specifically maybe now, if I have getting a credential like my driving license, I go to issuer, the issuer give me my driving license or maybe my social security card, they send it to a verifier, this verifier keep the data there just in case if I go to someone to buy a car, lease a car, whatever, this guy go to the verifier, say, this guy come and say his name is Asem Othman. Do you have anything to make sure that I can verify his identity? Yeah, maybe ask him for social security, ask him for a license. I have this under his name. And that's we see it when you try to make a credit card or something online, you see that it come back with questions. How they figure out my old addresses? How they figure out my old employee? So all of this, that's already stored in the verifier. And then the inspector uses it just to verify this identity. And that's actually the current ecosystem that we see for identity. But in the internet, actually, we see something similar because in the internet, you go to a service, you go to a website, you go to an organization, you generate your username and password. So actually now this organization is playing all the roles because simply when you go there, they ask you for username, they give you the credentials or the identity they have in their website and associated with username and password maybe, and then ask you again when you go to inspect, they go back to their own database and check if it's the same one. So now in digital world, we see that. And there's standards for this. where it says HTTP or SSL or TLS, all of this is doing that because they're doing everything in one place. But recently we start seeing a different scenario where we have an identity provider. This identity provider, he's the one that issued the data and he's the one who's doing verification. So when I go to someone else to do a service, they go to this identity provider, ask them, is this the same one that you give him identity, blah, blah, blah? Yes, it's the same. Okay, so I will give him the service because you proved to me that he's the same one, identity provider. We see this daily now and log in with Facebook or sign in with Google, which is single sign-on, because there's an identity provider that provides something like that. And there's standards for this SAML or OpenID Connect and all that. So all of this concept for identity verification, identity verification is in this digital ecosystem. But the issue with all of that, it's still a centralized system. Everything, they have a control over it. Like if we talk about identity verifier, we have Equifax that have my social security, my driving license numbers, and they lost it. They have it and they lost it. We have Facebook and Google, which we trust them to help us to log into different servers. But still, it's a centralized. Google and Facebook have a control of my identity, have a control of my credential or whatever, how I make the login. And I think government also start building this kind of centralized identity system, something like Aadhaar, where they're actually collecting not only, and to provide you with your unique, like social security, they ask you also to provide your biometric. And they store everything in a central data. And the problem and why we don't need central database, because they are hacked. They can't breach. Everything we lost. So the problem become, you need that, but at the same time, it's centralized database, which become like honeypots. And just to give you maybe that's the wrong time to use honeypots because honeypots have a different meaning in research and so on. But actually, I think it's a honeypots because if in dark web, your driving license, if I get your driving license, I can sell it for $20 or social security for $20. I think the numbers I have, if I get your credit card information, it's another $20. But if I have your payment or log in, your bank login information, it's $200 for individuals. So that's why you see this large number of breaches, because once they get the data, it's really, really good business. Don't go that business, but I think it's like, so, and we're feeding them. We are building this centralized data. And who's controlling that? It's these guys, Yahoo, Facebook, or even Equifax. They have the control, they manage it. And then they do something wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. You asked me to put my username, I follow everything you told me as a security hide, but then you lose it. So that's, I think, one of the issues with centralized database. I think it's whatever the standards, whatever everything, is still badly broken, because if it's not broken, we will never hear every day, every month about millions and millions of people have been lost their data. Yeah.
So I'm one of the co-creators of the original version of the SAML spec. So I'm just curious about, there have definitely been systems that are hacked, but when you're talking about the protocols are badly broken, do you have specifics on that? I'm just curious.
It's just about the combination. The protocols may be built perfectly, but then the users that are using it, it's a combination of that. So it's a system. We think about it as the full system. Maybe the protocol and the standard has been perfectly secure enough.
Yeah, but I think that's the same.
I'm not that I'm tough, but I'm tough because my data is getting breached every day.
Right, but I think it's important to recognize which parts are working and which parts are broken.
That's true. I agree to you.
So this is a little.
Yeah, I know it's tough, but I think as a user perspective, I think we keep hearing about data breaches. My social security now is someone in China. My name and my social security, are this guy didn't use the right standards?
No. Well, some of them did not. So we know that.
Okay, so we'll go in the weeds now. No, we will go in the weeds. We can go in the weeds now, but what I'm saying, the conclusion, if there's a data breaches or not. There's a good protocol, the good standards, but did they do it right? Some part of it wrong.
So I don't think we're in disagreement that you really have to look at the different parts of the system.
Exactly.
But I think it's really relevant to talk about why.
I was tough in this sentence, and I know that people didn't like it. I did this to a couple of places, but I think as a user, I still get hurt.
Okay.
It's more helpful.
Yeah.
To focus in on what people are doing wrong and not
And actually,
an entire.
and then actually, what I will do now, instead of going what they're doing wrong, I will provide something like the people are thinking about it now, and they're working on it, which is something. Just try to decentralize the problem, or just not decentralize the problem. Try to use a decentralized solution, which is called self-sovereign identity. And yeah.
Well, one of the things I worry about with biometrics is if there is a central and we don't get to control how everybody stores everything, like Google says, this is what I'm going to do with your data. If they store my passwords and do it poorly and it gets stolen, I can change a password.
Yeah.
I can't change myself.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's why we need to make sure that you are using the right. That's what my objective here.
That other people
exactly
do the right thing all the time.
Exactly. My objective here, you need always to know what kind of biometric system you are using. Not only the biometric, what the biometric system, what they do with my data. I just try to make sure that we ask the right questions. I'm not saying use any biometric system. Make sure that you are using a biometric system that makes sure that your data is secure, that makes sure that the data, you have a control of it, you can delete it, or you have a way to make sure it's securely stored. So the thing is, I agree to you. If I lost my password, I can change my password. If I lost my biometric, I lost it forever. But what we can do also, we can go ahead and discuss why it's almost impossible if I get your fingerprint to how I handle it. But why to go to this discussion? Let's go back and say, make sure that you're storing it in a secure way. That's why I say we need to follow something like IEEE standards, which is using distributed data model, which makes sure that everything's secure in a way that it's distributed. So let's go back to the identity concept. And that's why now there are work that try to decentralize the problem, or using a decentralized approach for the problem of identity, which is something called self-sovereign identity, where you bring your own identity with you, where we try to push the control of the data, control of the identity data to the edges, to us as individuals. We don't to centralize it. It's not in a centralized place. And you can think about self-sovereign identity similar to my license. So actually, it's in the Azure, but let's say try to solve it in a way that I have the license with me. I provide it to someone when he asks me for my license. It should not be stored anywhere. No one have access to my license. It's only me. I have it within my wallet. I have my license in my wallet, and I show it when I wanted to show to anyone to check my credential or verify my identity with me. So you can think about self-sovereign identity. No one have any information about your wallet except you. Actually, let's go further, because if we can do this without a wallet and show the whole credential, if we can do this digitally, if I'm going to, I don't buy alcohol, but if you are buying alcohol, you need to show your license. But what you are doing when you show license, when you buy alcohol, what you are answering here? The question is simple. Are you older than 18 or not? But what you did when you give the license, did you answer this question only, or what did you do? You give him your birthday, your address, and everything. Although the question was simple, it's yes or no question. Are you older or not? And there should be the answer is yes or no. So the concept of making everything digital also will help that I have a control of the data. I have the control of what I wanted to show and what I wanted to hide. So you asked me for my license. Why? Because I wanted to make sure that you are older than, okay, scan this and this will tell you that I'm older, yes or no, but you never know anything else. So the concept of self-sovereign identity, try to solve something and try to provide a solution that we can do. And is it doable? Yes, because I don't have my wallet with me, but I have my phone. Seriously, I have my phone, but I don't have my wallet. Even I put everything in, even in the back of my phone. I never forget my phone, but I keep forgetting my wallet. So I wanted to make sure that I have my license with me. So the phone can be a good idea to solve this problem, to have control of your identity, but also to provide only the information that you want to provide, not more or less than that. And there is a work that is happening now that it's called, trying to build something called DEX, which is a new type of resolvable cryptography verifiable identifiers that will be registered through a distributed ledgers, blockchain. And the work for that is happening in another group, standards group, which is called W3C. It's a committee in W3C. They are working in this kind of data specs
that's trying to build a new type of identifiers, which is called debt. And they're trying to build something similar to URL, but without a central authority. It's like, it doesn't have to be get from a specific service providers, and it has to be globally unique. So they are trying to still work on that. So like maybe you'll ask me some questions. I worked with them sometimes. They didn't have answers, and maybe now still didn't have the same answers to some of them. It's still under development. But the concept here is, I will go to the issuer, ask for maybe generate, like give me a driving license or whatever. So the issuer will give me and generate my driving license and associate my driving license information with this debt. You can think about the debt, it's exactly the same, even I would show you, the same syntax as URL. It's just a URL where, what is this data and where you can get it, which is my driving license. And the blockchain here is used only to audit and get signatures that Asem gets a driving license from this issuer, signed by Asem and signed by the driving license issuer. But we don't store anything of the credential in the blockchain. The blockchain is just a ledger. I'm just keeping track of records, everything. But I will get my driving license with me, with my phone, my browsers, if I want, in my phone, or even in my cloud storage, in my cloud repositories. The reference to this is the debt. And when you go to inspector, ask for, I wanted to buy something and I need your driving license. Why? Because I need to check maybe your birthday or address or whatever. That's the unique about it also. This issuer will give me my driving license, and we can generate more than debt to the same driving license. One debt that can reveal everything in the driving license, another one that can reveal everything in a driving license, but I will use it in a case I don't want it to correlate, because I wanted to make sure that I'm using my driving license somewhere and no one else, I'm using it somewhere else, so there is no correlations. They don't know where I'm using, they cannot track me. And another date that only show that I'm older than 18, another, and so on and so on and so on. So when I go to someone else, I show the date go back to the blockchain, yeah, it's signed by him, and yeah, it's signed by this issuer, and where is it? It is stored in his place in his cloud storage or whatever. How I can access it, or how I can at least read what I need from it, and then go back to the holder and ask him, okay, I see that you have a reliable debt, it's authenticated, it's everything signed right, show me what you want to show me based on what you have. And I show the credential using my digital wallet or my phone. It's still, there's many holes. They are building it, it's still working under, like W3C is still working. So maybe I don't have most of the answers, but they still work on it, and we try to help them to work on it. And I tell you exactly where we're trying to help them. But just to show you, the debt will be the same syntax, because W3C is the same group that was working on the URL, they're working on that, and try to build the debt that with the same syntax. And the method here actually, because there is many blockchains, and you also have the control, which blockchain and which digital wallet and which company and how you wanted to handle it. And you can generate different debt from the same thing in different places, in different blockchain. It's totally of your control. You have it, it's in your ownership. And the uniqueness will come based on the method, and the method is based on the blockchain that you are generating the debt from. Every blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, various one is one also, it's specifically generated for this case, and it's actually funded by DHS. And there is Sovereign, which is another group that's building another type of blockchain, which all of these try to build and try to help to build this kind of system for debts. But still, there's some companies and some groups are working on the Bitcoin, but it's a little bit expensive, but they are using it. So we worked with them, we're still working with them, but we want to see, okay, so that is still also about the regular credentials, but how we can use the biometric, either to prove more, to authenticate, because if someone accesses your credentials or your wallet, you need to make sure how to prove the ownership of the debt. How you can prove the ownership of your debt using biometric, or maybe even the biometric can be the credential by itself and you have a debt for it. So how we can put the debt in biometric along with the work that's happening in our W3C. And by thinking about it, what the W3C tried to reach is a decentralized option. Why? Because we have a control over the data. We need a distributed system to help us. And we're already doing a distributed data model. So I think we are a perfect fit. And that's why that's not a commercial name. That's a paper I sent it in a conference. But that's not a commercial name in our company. That's not Veridium. But that's a paper we call Horcrux protocol. Horcrux protocol. So I'm not sure if you know what's Horcrux, or you don't. If you didn't, I'm not sure how, why you didn't read, or you didn't watch Harry Potter. But if you didn't, so Horcrux is an object where you store a fragment of your soul. So to attain immortality, if you bring that fragment again of your soul. And of course, that's a dark wizard, and the strongest of the dark wizard able to split himself in 7, not 6. And you know the 7 if you watch Harry Potter, so I will not tell you. So he stored it in 7th place. And that's, I think we can do that. We can distribute the biometric along with the decentralized. And it will be secure, shared, self-sovereign biometric-based ID. Because when we use visual cryptography and distributed data model, I told them let's store one in mobile and another one on the server. But why the server? Why it's not your cloud, your Dropbox, and your mobile? Why not your Amazon and Dropbox? Why not your Amazon and Dropbox and your father and your mother Dropbox and everything there? So if something happened to your Dropbox, I can go and bring everything to my phone, authenticate, it is you, so it is your biometric, and you bring it back to yourself. It's distributed, so I can do whatever I want. The system is like, we're still building it, it's still like ongoing work, but we just make sure that the box will be handling your biometric and then distributed to different places, cloud storage, using the Horcrux protocol based on this. Then, using different chains, and then when you authenticate, that's when you start bring it back from your and authenticate using the biometric again. And we're still working on that. That's even like a draft of the draft. So what I was trying to reach here, that we try in our company that to solve the problem of provide a secure way to authenticate and to have identity verification using biometric, but at the same time protect and secure the data. Biometric is really sensitive information. And maybe in the QA we can go ahead and discuss why it can, many questions can be answered. And then we talk about with biometrics. But actually, we think it's more with mobile biometrics because everyone has a cell phone. But actually, more than that, we are not like, yeah, these are the customers who's paying us in US, in Europe, but actually the impact have a bigger work. And that's why we are working with Gates Foundation, and we get money from Gates Foundation to try to see how this can solve actually a bigger problem, which is there's many people that have phones, and we want to provide them with biometric capabilities. So we need to make sure that we have a mobile biometric technology that it's not only for specific people that have iPhone with Face ID or maybe a Touch ID, the latest and greatest phone. Anyone has a phone can use it to collect his own biometric. So we brought like some criteria and wanted to build a biometric that fit all these criteria. But most importantly, it's universal to be used in different mobile biometric. Why? Because we're trying to help financial inclusion, banking, non-bank. These are the people that need ID more than us. We already have an ID. We already have a license. But in Africa, in India, where I am, Egypt, there's people without even an ID, without even a birth certificate. And it's really serious because now we wanted to provide them with financial account, financial help. So we need a system that helps us to bank them. It's not like the way that we are using banks, that we want banks to put money or save money. That's the way that to process money for them, to give help or to give them their salaries and make sure. And once you give these people a financial account or a bank account, actually it helps them financially. It helps them to save money. It helps them to control the money. It helps them a lot. So we try to, but they need an ID infrastructure. They need a way to give them an identity. And we saw that in India. Like in India, when they start building that, it helped them a lot in Aadhaar. Aadhaar has been built not to give ID to anyone. It started with giving ID to the poor to be able to give them the money without any middleman, without losing the money to someone, fraud, and so on. And in the world, that's the last World Bank report, there is 1.7 billion adults without a bank account. Most of them in Asia and Africa, some in Latin America, even in the US. But when you look to this 1.7, I was really surprised by the graph. 1.7 of these people, and then look to the other graph, how many of them have mobile or cell phone? They don't have shoes, but they have cell phones. And you can see, like, even looking to the bubbles, it's the same number. It's 2/3 of them who doesn't have a bank account, they have cell phones. So the idea was simple. Can we provide this with identity, portable way to provide and collect biometric? And that's when one of the things that when I started working with Veridium, that was my first thing I started working on it, which is how we can use any cell phone as a biometric without needing a special extra hardware, which here we use the rear camera to capture the 4 fingers. So if we capture just any rear camera with 5 megapixels, which is now, I think it's really old phones. Any cell phone with 5 or more megapixels with a flashlight, we capture an image of your 4 fingers, and that's when we can able to do multi-finger system with any mobile phone. And we already working with it, so it's ready for IEEE, it's for POPs, it's Veridium and Veridium ID. It's already also ready for bring your own identity strategy like self-sovereign identity. This image is the first image I captured when I was showing the founder of the company that 4F can work. That's the first image I captured. I remember that. It was S4, Samsung S4. When I just joined the company, or even 2 weeks before joining the company, I get excited about it. So I took the picture, that's the first pictures. And it just, as you see, like you can see the ridges, everything is there. It just, you need the system to extract these features and match it. So simply, once you put your fingers, I find your fingers, capture it, extract the fingerprint, and do the matching. What makes it also very good, most of the databases, the legacy database, the government databases still use this kind of sensors. So still have these fingerprints. So the work that we worked on is how to move from this colored image to an image that can match perfectly with the one that we get from legacy databases. So it can provide identity in a secure way, and also if you wanted to match it to a legacy database in just in case. And to prove that, as I told you, we worked with the Gates Foundation, and we went to India to test that. And we did, I think the target was there to go and test it not on individuals who are, how they can say, the white collar workers. We try to focus on the blue collar workers because these are the guys that use their hands. These are the guys they need the financial inclusion. So also they use their hands. So their fingers are not the best thing. And actually they are not the best thing also in the fingerprint sensor. So to provide them a solution, we went to a research group from Michigan State University. We tested, we did very well, best even, surpassed what was the target performance. And that's proof that this kind of technology can be used for banking, welfare distribution, and healthcare application. We learned a lot when we went to India. That's something we are really proud about, because when we start with a finger guide, where you need to put your fingers inside this guide. We figure out sometimes it's become a problematic. People try to fit their hands. We put something like a mitten. There's some problems. Henna, there they have henna colored fingers, or some of them, that was the awful one. There's no fingers at all. Like this guy, I'm not sure, like he was a farmer or a construction worker, I believe, and his ridges is not there at all. So in these cases, we try to provide other type of biometric, but still the same images. Still some ridges can be captured, which make us different also, because these guys, when the sensor does capture a small area, but I capture the 4 fingers, larger area, I have the whole finger, so we're considering to use other biometric, not only fingerprint ridges. And and we've also tried to get some kind of standards. So we try to work with NIST, try to build a new type of standard test for getting some approval. So maybe this can be used also in law enforcement and other application in US and other places. So what I try to do here, just to show you that security there's many protocol and standards, there's many solutions, but also we believe that biometric can replace the weakest link there, which is password. But then when you wanted to handle biometric, you need to make sure that you have a system a full system that is secure enough and built in a way to protect your data. That's why we are working hard with IEEE on this open protocol standard. And we built our platform based on that. And from there also, we believe that the identity has to be pushed to the edges. It has to be not centralized, decentralized. And what's helping us in BOBS, we have a distributed model along with this self-sovereign concept that is still new. We think that we can get something really beautiful that work together. And at the end is that the 4 fingers, which is my 4th child, I have 3, that's my 4th, is something that we try to work on it and improve it and try to provide a mobile biometric that include everyone that has any cell phone that can be used to collect biometric. I think we can continue the answering questions now. So, thank you. So for the standard, let's go back to this argument because it's really dear and close to me. I agree to you. The standards, and I put it there, I know that someone will jump out and say, no, that's not all of them. Yeah, not all of the protocol. If you look to the protocol, look to the standard, yeah, maybe that's covering many things. But still, what's happening now in the real world? Are they following these standards and protocol? They are doing it. But we are losing still. There's a lot of data breaches.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
First of all, I believe that biometrics are very useful adjuncts.
Okay, that's good. I don't need more than that.
Hold on. 2 other authentication factors. One is more than multi-factor. I think it's more helpful for the larger audience to just be more specific. When you're talking about, certain things have been broken over and over again, and people still handle that irresponsibly, like not solving password hash databases. We know that.
Yeah.
So let's focus on the things that truly are broken, as opposed to saying,
And I think, yeah. And I think there is a groups are doing that. Yeah, I agree to you. But what I'm saying also, maybe another way to look to it, okay, there's something there, it's working, there's people fixing it, but let's try to go in more, how to say, crazy idea. Something like self-sovereign. That's why we are trying to go there. Because we believe that self-sovereign it's not solvable. It's still working on many things, but we still believe that it can be pushed in a way. At least these kind of breaches will not be in this kind of large scale.
Personally, I just didn't understand the part right now about the self-sovereign identity. So I would have to ask other people, or hopefully there'll be another talk on it.
Yes.
To really, because part of the whole thing with any of these protocols, right, that's what we're talking about, is having the analysis and having a depth.
I'm a biometric scientist. Maybe I'm not the best one to answer all of your questions. I will do my best. But still, these are public groups. You can join them. You can participate. They are looking for people. So W3C group, you can check. I can send you the links. Self-sovereign, the sovereign group. It's Sovereign Foundation. It's also an open source. Most of their work actually built based on Hyperledger. So everything is open. You can join them, and we're trying to jump in and help them as they're looking for people to help them as volunteers. So yeah.
Fair point. The protocol versus the implementation of the protocol, or so these are all absolutely men that you probably agree with.
Yeah.
So questions. I'm sure we've got a lot. I know I've got some. Are you willing to come up and talk just so the people on the stream can hear us? All right.
Hello, I'm Omar. I'm a biometrician by trade, but I'm really interested in computer science and security and stuff. Thank you, Allison, for the very interesting talk. I thought it was very interesting looking into biometrics and what you guys have planned for the future. But I guess my question is, are you guys considering implementing traditional cryptography with this biometric system? Because, quite frankly, we have some really nice algorithms out there that are mathematically secure.
Yeah, so I think, and that's what our BOBS is built upon. It's built upon traditional biometric secure way. But what we thought about as adding another level to store the biometric, because we thought about that storing the biometric by itself in a central database, even if you have a different standard traditional cryptographic technique to secure servers, which we see. That's what happened. Even US, like recently, or 1 year, maybe 1.5 years, I don't remember, everything looks the same now. We hear about these breaches a lot. US government lost fingerprints of their employee. So we know that there is this traditional way. What we try to add is another layer of protection. But in this layer of protection, we say, even if you are encrypting the data of the biometric, why are you encrypting the whole data? Still, why you have the whole data? Let's distribute.
That wasn't, I mean, that's a very good point, but that wasn't exactly what I was trying to get at. I was more interested in like, so for example, with internet, with TLS, you have the certificate authority that gives out certificates, the whole public key, private key, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is there anything in mind also for this system? Just because the gentleman here mentioned before, if you lose your biometrics, you can't change that. But with the key, we can just generate a new one very quickly.
Okay. So first of all, we are using TLS for our security, just to make sure that when we connect to the server and we have a public key and private key. And Bob's actually one of the things that we try to do just to make sure it's multi-factor authentication. So we're using biometric along with the private key, public key. So we're using both of them as a multi-factor authentication. That's why we believe it has to be multi-factor. Add to that if it's so we have to do that. It has to be done this way. What we try to add, we do that. What we try to add, how also to make sure that we are not storing the biometric in one place. Okay, because if I lost it, I lost everything. So even that, we try to distribute it in a way. Even if you add different traditional biometric layer for the communication, for the storage, and so on. What I wanted to answer with regarding the question that everyone is talking about, that I can change my password, but I cannot change my fingerprint if I lost my fingerprint. That's true. That's true. But then let's go, if you didn't do the right implementation of the system, and you didn't do all what we told you to do, and still you did the same mistake, everything wrong, and you lost your fingerprint. I lost my fingerprint. And I'm already using this fingerprint in different systems to authenticate. What the hacker or the attacker can do with this fingerprint. Number one, it's still a lot of effort. It can be done, it can be done. But I just wanted to give you the full picture. The attacker have your fingerprint templates, not your fingerprint image. So first, you need to be an expert to figure out how to generate the image from the template. Is it impossible? It's possible. It can be done, it can be done. How accurate it is, he will generate a fingerprint image. Is it yours? I don't know. But let's say 80%, this is your fingerprint image. He generates the fingerprint image. What he can do, he just have an image. He cannot just, because he need to put it in a sensor. So he need to generate a spoof. Second step, you need to do more effort to generate a spoof. Can it be done? Yes, it can be done. You can generate the image, make a copy of it, do a mirror image, generate the spoof, and now he has the spoof. He has your fingerprints, and he put it in the system. Does the system have a liveness measure? That's another thing. So that's why I'm saying, when you build a system, make sure you're asking the main question. Does the system have a liveness image? A liveness measure. What I mean by a liveness measure, if you have a presentation attacks like a spoof of your face, of your fingers, so most of the sensors, just make sure it is from your live hand, or it is you. It doesn't, it's not a gelatine and so on. So add to that, it has to have a liveness measure. It doesn't have a liveness measure, or you're a very expert to able to generate a fingerprint that from a template, you generate a fingerprint image that is really good enough to generate a spoof, and you're able to go to the system that doesn't have a liveness in it. Yes, you can use it.
Thank
But
you.
that's a lot of effort. That's a lot of effort. That's why in our Veridium, we make sure that when we deploy our biometric system, we make sure that we always associate it with liveness measure. Yeah.
Eugene, the best. I have 3 questions. First one, what's your false negative and false positive ratio?
Okay, so for our 4F, you're asking about 4F.
Yeah.
Our biometric
Or
technology.
any other methodology you use.
Okay, so that's the thing. Every methodology has its own false rejection and false accept. Okay, I will give you our numbers. Does it say anything about the fingerprint? No.
I'm talking just about
Exactly. So when we talk about us, our false rejection rate and false accept rate 1 in a 10,000, false accept rate 1 in 10,000. Our false rejection rate, I believe it's 1, which maybe it's better, but let's say 1. 1% false rejection rate and a 1 in 10,000 false accept rate.
Okay, so that means that the system cannot be used for identification for serious big systems. Because identification should give you the exact answer that this person is he or not.
Exactly.
People. So you do not consider your system as the first factor, only the second.
Okay, let me add a detail. That's when you use 4 fingers on the cell phone on mobile. Okay, using our matcher that is suitable for the mobile. All of that, when we sell it, we say it's a verification. We don't do one-to-one. But what we did, we get the images, we improve it in a way to similar to the legacy database. So we are doing this. It's called 4F export. We generate not only 4, we generate 10 fingers. And when we generate 10 fingers, we send it to them with not our matcher, with their matcher that is already suitable for large scale scenario. Which in that case bring us to false rejection rate, which is really, what was it? I think the false rejection rate was almost like, but the false accept rate was 1 in 10 million.
Okay.
So the thing is, what I'm saying, again, whatever numbers I'm saying doesn't say about anything about fingerprint. It say about this system.
Yeah.
So every system is built in a way to target a specific application. We target verification, so we provide it with this match. If we are targeting identification, we need to provide the right number of biometrics, the right matchers, and based on the system. And then there is this sense threshold to play a lot with it. Because in my scenario, I'm more inconvenient. I wanted to make sure that I'm giving you the best false rejection rate. I'm not rejecting Asem. So that's why I'm trying to make sure that my false rejection rate is small. I can do something which makes the false rejection high with a lower false accept rate, but that's not convenient for mobile. That's convenient for identification. So it's playing with the numbers is something else with the same system.
Okay.
Like the same system can work with identification.
That makes perfect sense.
Yes.
And the third question, do you have some procedures how you recreate the lost credentials? Like you say that, say your ID, you show it, it works as long as you have it. You lost it, what are you gonna do?
Okay, so for self-sovereign or for us as a 4F?
For both?
So every like self-sovereign, they try to solve it using what I said, where you distribute it and you have like your relatives in your circle where you store things with them in your cloud storage or their cloud storage. So that's where the self-sovereign. They try to store it in a different place and bring it. And I think they try to solve this also in the keys. Try to have a distributed key management. Which, if you ask me a question, maybe I would not be the best one to answer it, but still, it's using something similar to secret sharing. For us, if you lost the phone, we have this kind, because we are working with enterprises, so we have like lost phone procedure, where we most of the time maybe we'll ask you to enroll again, or maybe if it's already have a backup in the server in a way or another. So it depends on the enterprise. It's customized. It depends on the enterprise. But the answer, I'll ask you to enroll.
I'm going to ask a question. First of all, thank you. It was a really wonderful presentation. I think it's interesting because I think here in the U.S. we're kind of behind other countries in terms of our use or application of biometrics. So I look at countries like China and Singapore, where there is much more, kind of aggressive adoption of biometrics, both for commerce and for other purposes. I'm wondering, like, what, and I'm really interested in this sort of decentralized model, because, I mean, one of the things I think that's come out of that is this notion of, like, well, yeah, you can buy groceries with your face, but that's only possible because the government is basically, like, storing your face and all your other biometrics and your movements in this huge surveillance database. So who cares if you can buy groceries with your face? So am I wrong in thinking that this is a way to both enable biometric authentication and all the security benefits of that without, unwittingly enabling some huge, nasty surveillance capability for whoever?
So actually, I will like talk about two parts here. The first part, where US is still behind the other countries.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm a biometric scientist, and I'm in the middle of them. I'll tell you why. In Brazil, every ATM has a fingerprint sensor. In India, most of the Indian now, I think it's the number, how much? The number, I think it's 600 billion, something like that. They already collected their biometric and using it for banking and other things. In Mexico, you cannot open a bank account without your fingerprint. In Latin America and Africa. So all of these countries are, more advanced in using biometric in their daily life, daily application than US. That's true. That's very true. But the other thing, actually, but also what is really unique and not good and good in all, but most of the standards and tests is here. And if you go to any of the countries, they ask you, did you test and pass the standard and test in US? US is not using that. But they want to hear that the FBI. So we are actually, that's why I mentioned the nest, because any fingerprint sensor doesn't have to be. If it's used in the law enforcement applications, it has to be tested by FBI for quality test, which is Appendix F and BIV. So that's for law enforcement. But law enforcement, Britain, long time ago, these standards, and then when they wrote it for touch, not for touches. So when I went there to FBI 2016, I have 6 months struggling with the FBI, and then they told me, you know what, let's go to NEST and build a new type of test. But when you go to other countries, did you get the FBI Appendix F? So that's a struggle. But still, I think it's still good and bad in measuring. The other countries is far away, they're already using it. Some of them are, we're already working in some countries. I'm not sure, I can't say publicly, that's a live stream, but we already have customers that we're working with them for biometric and they use it. That's the one part. But actually, in US, regarding the self-sovereign identity, we see that there's many funds coming from DHS to this. Actually, as I told you, one of the chain is funded directly from one of these projects, from Inspired Various One. Actually, the sovereign actually was also another company that started from DHS funding. So I think research-wise, yes, US is pushing it. And it will do what you said. But we'll see it here soon. I don't think so. I think it will take the federal laws and all of that. It will take ages until to be used.
These blockchain.
But it's not self-sovereign. Self-sovereign identity is used now in British Columbia. It's used now in Estonia, I think, the country in Europe. So they are using it now in some countries.
Okay. Yeah. Hey. So starting with your idea analogy, which I liked. My Maserati does 185. I lost my license, so now I can't drive. And, revocation I didn't see in the model. I assume you're planning something for it. I like the Horcrux protocol. I'm going to recommend Basilisk as the revocation protocol.
Okay.
But in this notion of contemplating revocation, that's kind of counterintuitive to what blockchains traditionally are for, where you hash everything across the block to prevent record modifications, or you need something else to track, like a Basilisk protocol, to track the revocation. And assumedly, if you use another blockchain technology for the integrity, we get this thing where blockchains don't scale without huge amounts or increasing amounts of proof of work.
Yep.
So do you have a feel for how far we can scale this thing? Can an entire
but still, but it depends on, like, if you're talking about proof of work.
Yeah.
Proof of work with specific blockchains. But if we're talking about what they are building blockchains, especially for this application, only for this application, not for anything else, they're building like something like Sovereign, which is a public permission. Public permission, which means publicly anyone can use this blockchain, but you cannot have a node unless you are a steward in Sovereign, which is something like that. That's the analogy. The ATM, just if someone not familiar with the blockchain, it's just like the ATM. Anyone can use the ATM, but no one can build an ATM unless you are in the net. So they try to go.
So centralized decentralization, is that the?
It's not, again, it's decentralized, but the thing is that you have nodes that has to be permission. Anyone can apply. Anyone can build and go in and build a node, but you need to go through a process, which is a legal process, and just make sure that they're reliable and so on and so forth.
So they technically proof of stake, not proof of work.
But also anyone can have a node, but you need to go through a process, which is simple paperwork. Yeah, you can. Yeah, but they didn't say it this way, so I don't want to go against what they say.
Revocation, you're revoking the authorization, but not the identity. Identity stays with you. So don't.
I hope.
You hope, but the thing is, that's what's trying to do. So again, there is many questions that's not answered. And I don't tell you that I have the answer. They are still bending it. They were looking for people to help them. But I think they try to figure out some solutions, especially for losing the identity, where you try to distribute it with your relatives, with your group. That's why they try to build this kind of circle, as I say, the relatives for lost credentials or something like that.
No worries, just solve everything I've ever been concerned about with blockchains.
Yeah. But then, again, with respect to the blockchain, I just wanted to, again, the blockchain here, just for auditing and ledgers. There is no, as the other problem, like proof, exactly, like proof of work on this, because as I told you, they try to, but still, there's some groups that say, no, we wanted to use something public like Bitcoins, or try to, which is still another type of headache, but still, they're going this route, whatever their reasons. That's why, as a company, we went to sovereign, because we believe that's the one that should be public without need a lot of work, which is the scalability is there. It can be scalable.
Maybe time for one more question, if there is one. Yeah.
So it seems to me all these schemes of biometrics, the issue is in coupling an identity with the biometric. And it seems to me that's the weak link there, because if somebody can spoof you by basically putting their biometric associated with your identification.
So we are talking about someone come with a spoof, which is my fingers, and put it to his identity. Exactly. So that's why in IEEE BOBs, they say when you do the enrollment, there is some steps. We wanted to make sure of it. One of the things is liveness. You need to make sure it's not a spoof.
So I capture your children and I say, go sign in as me. You know, bad guys do bad things.
Again, yes, that's when it depends on the system. You need to look to the system. They need to have what they call it identity proving scenario. So it depends on the system. Can it happen? Yes. Well, that's why I'm saying from the beginning, it depends on the system, how you build the system. Can it happen? Yes, but then how you build it. If you bring me a spoof, I just wanted to make sure that I have a liveness measure. If you're having some scenario, bringing someone live, which is what's happening now with biometrics, and it's a new term, what they call. I forgot it. So what's happening now in countries like Mexico or India, where people wanted to do money laundering, but they cannot do it because there is biometric system. So they go to one person and then ask him, okay, come make a bank account, done, leave, and then start using his bank account. So that's happening now. That's why we say, again, the system has to be complete. You want to make sure that you have a unique way, or not a unique way, but you have a secure way of identity proof. It depends on the system. If I'm doing onboarding enrollment, you need to have a way of identity proving along with the aliveness. What some people do, rely on another identity. We ask you to scan your license and then collect your biometric, make sure that's the ID that you have collected. So now I'm relying on the issuer. Some people do using video. Capture, make sure it's you while you're doing the enrollment, and then enroll you. So it depends on the system, depends on the enterprise, depends on all of these questions. You're right, it could happen, but that's why we try to follow a standard way that asks the right questions, and if you follow the right questions and answer all of them right, at the end of the day, you will have a system that will work as much as we could. Yeah. So the thing is, we're trying to learn as well. There is many questions, and there is always, especially in liveness, like liveness is also another issue, because there is always a race between me and the attackers. Today I get that, I solve it, next day he figure out. So I need to go next level. So even for anything that's building environment. So there is always a race. There's always a race with attackers on liveness. There is always a race with identity proving. There is always a race. So I know that I will keep working for some time. My job will never take to work.
There are no perfect security systems.
Exactly.
We know that. And so it's always a question of
how much better is this system than what we do now? So it's like when I talk to people about using password managers, they're like, well, if somebody got your password manager, then they'd have all your passwords. And I'm like, well, that's true. But what you're not doing is thinking about how crappy the password system you have right now is and insecure it is. You're writing things on sticky notes or whatever. So, and it's sort of the same thing here, right? Like, so, the question is, how much better would a biometric system be than what we have right now? Which is how that's here. So thank you all so much for coming. Before you go, let me remind all of you, although I'm sure everybody in this room has already taken the Security of Things poll that I've circulated. But if you haven't, I'm going to send around a message again. So if you're a member of the meetup, you'll get this message. Take 2 seconds. No, it's not 2 seconds, but take 3 minutes and complete the Google poll of our members, because we're using it to figure out what types of topics to tackle this year, where to hold our meetups, a whole bunch of good stuff that you want your input on. Right now, we have 2,500 wonderful members, and we've got about a little bit more than a 1% response rate. So, so keep at it. Do the poll if you get a chance. Jeff and I really appreciate it. And is there anything else? Any airing of grievances or anything of that order? No? Okay. Thank you all so much. We will be doing a meeting in February. Just informal poll. The 3rd week in February is the 19th. For people who have kids, that is like it's the President's Day weekend, and therefore it's usually school vacation week. Is that a problem for people generally? I'd rather that week. I'd rather keep it the 3rd week than do it the week after next. Okay. So I'm not going. It's good for you. Oh, we've got. All right, we've got swag. We've got swag. Okay, so pick up the Veridium swag. Yes, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. And thanks to WPI, Mike. Yeah. Awesome. Great job.
Yeah, thank you.
That was wonderful. Yeah, thank you. So for
Really is.
Where are you here?
Gonna get one.
Oh, okay. Oh, gosh. I'm running down.
really not.
Using that.
I have a famous church there.
No. So you can discuss your peers. That's just so funny. I work nearby, and they still very in front of my shirt now. And so I just bought this little shop across the street. $34 I gotta wear. But you're working. Yeah. Okay, I work in supply. Yeah. So, are you ID or? So, yeah, I don't know what yeah, so